How's it going, guys? Welcome back for another card review. Right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the brand new Gurren Lagann collaboration. Okay, so I feel it's a bit too early to review most of the cards out there, right? But because they have already reviewed the 3 jackpots, so I've decided to do a review for Simon as well as Kamina, these 2 cards as the video for today, alright, card review. So although I am a streamer for Madhead, I'm not exactly paid by Madhead. In fact, I'm not paid by Madhead, right? So I'm free to do my own opinions, right? Not to bully any of new contents coming up. Okay, so you can see that this is more of a serious card review as compared to what we usually have without the face cam, right? So let's get into the card review for Simon and Kamina as a card on its own. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm going to talk about Simon and Lagann. This is 1 card, okay, and it's a Fire Machina card. So gameplay is purely Machina and Team Gurren characters, which is the collab. Okay, so I believe there is definitely non-Machina cards in the collab. So that actually gives you the somehow Machina and collab hybrid gameplay. Okay, so number 1, team attack times 6. Okay, that's not so bad. HP attack recovery of Gurren characters times 1.2, which is always a good buff to have. So extend rule movement regardless by 2 seconds, always good. 4, when leader or ally is a combined character, team HP attack recovery times 1.5. Okay, so this is whereby you already know that you should fuse into a combined character as soon as possible, right, in order to reach that maximum multiplier. Okay, so point number 5, by dissolving enchanted water, fire or earth, team attack times 2.2 additionally, and 2.2 is actually a huge boost. Okay, so so far so good. And the last point, when there's an additional effect in play, damage received minus 40%. Alright, so I will do a separate video comparing this with Full Metal Alchemist, right? So I do not want to divert too much attention on that, right? So I'll just talk mainly Simon and Lagann here. Okay, so what you have is a very good basic multiplier of 6, and you have additional 3 stats boost for Gurren characters. You have extended movement time regardlessly by 2 seconds. Okay, and then you have an additional boost, which is the 1.5 for combined characters, and on top of that, another times 2.2. Okay, so that's a decent amount of multiplier already, right there. Okay, and then that additional effect in play, you have damage reduction. So we do have huge pool of HP, right? And then we do have damage reduction, which is considered a pass for meta nowadays. Okay, so moving on. Alright, so next we have Kamina and Gurren. Alright, so this would be the fusion partner of the Simon dude that we talked about earlier. Right, so these 2 will be fusing into a new character, something like what we have for Roy Mustang and Riza, right? Or Edward and Alphonse in this case. So when team consists of only Machina and Gurren characters, so it's basically the same gameplay, right? So we have a times 6 multiplier as well. Okay, so point number 1, point number 2 is the same. Right, come to point number 3, hard runes possess 100% effect of attributive rune stones. Okay, number 4, turn 1 water, 1 fire, 1 earth into enchanted Machina runestones each round. Okay, and that seems like an okay skill to have, just a slight damage increase because of the race runes. Okay, point number 5, when leader and ally is a combined character, you have that additional boost as well, showing you that you should fuse as soon as possible. And then last part, by dissolving enchanted runestones, team attack times 2 additionally. Now that might seem like a very difficult criteria to hit, but upon reaching fusion, you do have that passive skill which allow you to hit that additional 2 times 2 additionally based on due to enchanted runes very easily. Okay, so I'm just gonna move forward for now. Alright, so we will have to talk about Kamina and Gurren's Power of Spirall, which is their special Dragonary Craft effect, right, which is what we have for like Nan skill. It's more similar to Nan skill because it only uses 50% of the craft apparatus, right? So it's not really like Orb Caliber or Pandora Box like what the Chinese live stream have mentioned, right? Which is the closest to it would be Hunter x Hunter's Nan power, right? Because it uses a percentage of the craft. Okay, so for one round, all attributive runestones possess effect of other attributive runestones, so that gives you like a mini boost for one turn. Okay, so number 2 and number 3 is basically the same thing. I have no idea why they split it into 2 to make it more impressive or something, right? But point number 2 and point number 3 is basically the same, right? So using Spirall to pin down enemies to inactivate the enemies. Alright, so I don't know why they put it to point 2 and 3 in the first place, right? So it's basically the same thing. So it's to inactivate them for one round. It's kind of like a CD delay. Okay, so point number 4, last part, damage dealt on enemy times 2.5. So that's like an extra overpowering multiplier on top of that, right? So in my opinion, it can be used occasionally, right, based on the stage info, right? But nonetheless, I feel that this Spirall power thing is kind of okay. It's not very game breaking, it's not very fantastic in a sense. So yeah, just a good to have kind of thing, right? So maybe more of like the CD delay portion, right? If you were to encounter things like CD1 minion shield, or in a case that whereby you are lacking recovery and you're dying, so you can activate it to kind of delay the enemy for one round, stuff like that. Alright, so showing the Spirall power Dragonary craft, right? So this is actually the effect. So this is kind of passive effect that you're getting, right? So let's take a look. So point number 1, upon completion of moving and dissolving the runestones, tap a runestones as the center of 3x3 explosion to generate enchanted runestones. Okay, so here, what happens is that you can actually use this. So it's best to not tap this in the corners or on the borders of the board, right? It's best is you tap and you have make use of the full 3x3 explosion, right? So usually you can use this to get rid of things like partially frozen runes, weathered runes, electrifying runes and stuff like that, depending on the situation. But most of the time you want a full 3x3 explosion, because why? Exploded runestones drop will be water, fire, earth when you are in the fusion form, right? In which I'll talk about it later. Okay, so if you were to look at the non-fusion form, if exploded runestones drop include water, fire, earth, team attack times 2 for one round, right? So for the non-fusion version, it's more like a RNG kind of thing, right? So it might not drop water, fire, earth, right? So it will be a more reliable sky drop once you reach the fusion form, in which I'll touch on that later. Okay, so just remember, before fusion, the runes drop is very RNG, so the team attack times 2 for one round might not activate. Okay, so point number 3, for each heart rune exploded above, recover 10,000 HP until team HP is full, meaning you cannot overheal with this effect. So make use of this 3x3 explosion to your advantage, right? So if you are low on HP and you kind of need to recover, try to find a 3x3 area that has more heart runes to it. Explode that and you can recover more HP. Okay? Okay, so we're going to move on to Simon and Kamina's active skill, right? Before we move on to the fusion version, right? We have to settle these things one by one. So Simon, CD7, number 1, release lock skill of all Daiguren characters, right? So this is pretty much like a self-owned series card unlock, a bit like Ultraman. Okay, so number 2, explode petrified runes and the bottom 3 rows to generate enchanted runestones, right? So just a single bot hazard clearance, which is petrified runes, and the bottom row generate enchanted runes for you to kind of get the extra multiplier, as what we have explained in the leader skill earlier in this video. Okay, so for one round, character attack times 5, not very fantastic, times 5, right? Even Kurapika have a permanent times 4. But character damage will be dealt regardless of initial shield, right? So we take note, this is character damage only and not the entire team. Okay, and on top of that, the character launches an extra attack, right? So on top of the Makina extra attack, you have an extra attack again. Okay, so overall, I find that this card is okay. If you were to compare with Fullmetal Alchemist, I'll touch on that later in a separate video. Okay, I keep comparing this to Fullmetal Alchemist, right? But there will be a separate video on its own. Okay, next, Kamina active skill, also CD7, number 1, 3 rows will be added. So what you have seen for Chaos, what you have seen for the protagonist power release, right, 3 rows will be added. Extend rule movement to 10 seconds, which is pretty much the same as power release protagonist as well. So for 1 round, attack and recovery of Gurren times 2, right, so that is another buff, another times 2 buff for the entire team, which is okay. And turn Runestone touch while moving into Makina Runestones, right, so this is like the more important part, I feel, right? So if you were to run into a team with a full bulk weakened runes and maybe CD1 with enemy CD1 with 100% damage dealt by percentage, something like that, right? You need to kill it as fast as possible, right? So if you do not have any bot clear and stuff like that, you can actually use Kamina's active skill, right? Add 3 rolls and then you just run your fingers through the entire weakened runes and to convert it to Makina Runestones. That's how you settle the weakened runes. And then after that, spin and kill kind of thing. Right, so overall, if you were to compare Simon and Kamina's active skill, I believe that Kamina active skill will be slightly better than Simon. Right, I believe if you were to bring like leader ally kind of thing, I would prefer bringing an extra Kamina instead of an extra Simon. Right, I'll more on that later. Right, so let's move on to the fusion form. Alright, so this is the fusion forms effect, right? So if you were to compare with certain cards out there that also have fusion, you realize that the fusion for this is not really super fantastic. Okay, so basically upon activating the fusion, number 1, you'll recover HP to full. Number 2, you fully charge your craft apparatus, which is okay. I mean, by the time you can fuse, your craft should have been ready by then. Alright, so maybe unless you have already used 1 round of Dragonary craft, alright, and then you fuse, just to get that second charge back fully instantly, right? That's that kind of scenario, right? Or and number 3, Makina members of the Gurren will increase to 100% instantly, right? So which means that if you were to bring in other cards like Pompeii and stuff like that, it will not jump to 100%. You will still again have to sell spin to get that fuel to 100%, right? So other than that, if you look at the combination skill, it's not very time based, meaning that you can only fuse at a certain time of the battle, and then you get that, you take advantage of the combination skill. Not really, right? So in my opinion, for this Kamina and Simon combination skill, right, just combine as fast as possible, and then to make it get that extra multiplier from that leader skill, right? Because when there's a fusion monster as a leader, you get the extra multiplier. Okay, so finally, let's talk about the fusion version, Gurren Lagann, okay, of leader skill, which is a fusion form, okay. So, same playstyle, Makina and Gurren characters collab. So, team attack times 6.5, higher than what we have for the pre-fusion, right, which is 6. Attack recovery also times 1.2, so there's no change. Extend rule movement regardless by 1 second, so that kind of like a drop in spin time. I think it was 2 previously and now it's dropped to 1, okay. And then number 4, hard runes possess 50% effect of attributive runestones, okay. So this hard rune possession part is Kamina's side of the leader skill, right? So upon fusion, you get this half Simon, half Kamina leader skill fused together, okay. 5, by dissolving enchanted runestones, team attack times 2, that is easily hit well when you do the fusion, okay. And then when there's an additional effect in play, damage received minus 40%. Alright, so you can see it's literally a half Simon, half Kamina leader skill. So this is the important part that you guys have to take note, okay. You can see that the Gurren Lagann, the fusion form of the Spirall power is different from the pre-fusion form, right? So where's the difference is at point number 2, okay. So I'm just gonna go through again. So upon the end of the round, right, tap a rune to explode a 3x3, right? It will this time it will generate for sure 100% of the time water, fire, earth enchanted in the row, right? So explode already, it will be water, fire, earth. Okay, so that will be again an extra 3 combos for you, for sure, unless the enemy prevents you dissolving water, fire, or earth. Okay. So exploded runestones will, if the exploded runestones include water, fire, earth, team attack times 2 for one round, right? So upon the fusion form, it will guarantee you the water, fire, earth, in which you will guarantee get that team attack times 2 for 1 round as well. Alright, so that will give you a more stable gameplay as compared to the pre-fusion form. Okay, and then point number 3 is basically the same thing. A 3x3 explosion. The more hard rune explode, the more recovery you get. Okay, so I think it makes things very clear. Right, once the CD is up for you to fuse immediately for that max multiplier and that for that sky drop as well. Alright, we're almost there, right? So active skill, there is a change of active skill for the fusion form as well. So active skill number 1 belongs to Simon, right, which is CD7, there's no change. So release lock skill of all team. I believe this is a typo. It's supposed to be the collab cards. Okay, so number 2, explode petrified runes to generate 3 rolls. Same thing, right? Same thing as the pre fusion. So for 1 round, character attack times 8 instead of times 5. Right? So there's a buff there, and also character damage will be dealt regardless of initial shield. Right? So be sure. I'm quite sure that this collab, ultimate stage and stuff like that will have a lot of boss skill that have initial shield, I guess. Okay, so basically what we have is pretty much similar to what we have for Edward in Full Metal Alchemist, whereby his character's attack actually increases after the fusion, right? We do have some similar vibe here. Alright, so last but not least is Kamina's active skill number 2, the fusion form, which belongs to Kamina. Alright, so 3 rolls of enchanted runes will be added. So this time it will be a fixed number of 6 fire, 6 earth, and 6 hard runes, all enchanted. Okay, so for 1 round, extend rune movement time to 12 seconds. So instead of 10, you get 12 seconds now. Okay, so attack and recovery of Gurren characters times 2.5, so that's a buff as well after fusion. So turn runestone touch while moving into Kamina runestones, no change. And most importantly is point number 5, which is an additional effect. This is not present in the pre-fusion form. Okay, which is turn all runestones into Kamina runestone at the end of the round. Okay, so very good, in my opinion. So now the thing is, how do you play this character? How do you play this Simon and Kamina as a solid team? Right, so I have to be very honest, for the Chinese live stream that I saw earlier on, it was a big disappointment in terms of damage, but the collab is not to be blamed, honestly. It's because the streamers that are doing the team setup did a very bad job, right? To be honest, it was horrible. That team setup was horrible. Okay, so how you're gonna play this is basically what happened in the live stream was that they did Simon ally Simon, right? So you do have a dual Simon playstyle, but I feel that that's not ideal. That's not ideal, right? So what you want to do is probably you want to go for either a Kamina playstyle or a Simon Kamina playstyle, right? You would want your ally to be Kamina for that maximum multiplier. Why? Because if you were to see, I'm just going to do this right here live for you. Alright, so if you were to look at Gurren Lagann, which is the fusion form leader skill, okay, I'm just gonna kind of shift this right here. Right, my face is not important. And I'm gonna quickly add in the Kamina leader skill. Okay, so if you were to take a look at these two, okay, these two would have been a better combination instead of dual Simon. Okay, why? Because if you take a look at all the effects, we do have hard runes possess 100% effect for Kamina side, and for the fusion side you have hard rune possess 50% effect of attributive runestones, which means that upon fusion you do have hard rune possess 150% effect of attributive runestones, right? So that is more damage output right there. Okay, and then after that you do have turn 1 water, fire, earth into enchanted Makina each round. That will trigger the by dissolving enchanted runes, team attack times 2 for fusion, and team attack times 2 for Kamina side as well. Okay, so I feel that this is a better formation as what compared to what we've seen in the live stream that was shown to us. Right, that was completely trash. Okay, so this I feel that it will provide you a better damage output. Right, so if you don't believe me, if you can take a look at Simon right here. Okay, if you were to do a a fusion and Simon ally, right? So what you can see is that yes, you do have damage received stacking, so which means you'll get more damage reduction, right? And this is completely fine. It really depends on team, depending on the stage itself. Okay, so yeah, in my opinion, I feel that Kamina is a better ally because Kamina active skill gives you that 3 rolls, right? Whereby if you run dual Simon, you will have 2 cards having active skill that unlocks the card, right? Which I find that is pretty redundant. I would rather have 2 Kamina in the team that give me 3 rolls, for that burst, right? It's a bit similar to I rather have 2 Alphonse in the team than 2 Edwards in the team, something like that, right? It's basically the same logic. Okay, so I'm gonna end off the video with a bit of a team member discussion, right? So I feel you guys feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below, because this is gonna be a long video and I want to get this out, get this message out clearly. Okay, so Simon and this Gurren Lagann playstyle, right? So as compared to that chess setup we saw in the live stream, well, what they could have done better is to have the fusion Gurren Lagann, okay, and then next to it bring Smilodon, right? Remember the free card Smilodon, right? So that gives you 2.5 time boost to the fire member on your left, which is Gurren Lagann, right? That is going to give you massive damage multiplier. Okay, provided you do 4 more combos. Okay, so that is one way to boost your damage, right? So on top of that, I think it is very good for you to bring another booster such as Snow Miku, right? Even though I feel that Snow Miku might feel a bit out of place here, but definitely will assist you in terms of the damage output, right? Because this kind of fusion card, most of the damage is concentrated into the fusion card itself, right? So Snow Miku will actually allows you to bypass most of the will contribute more damage to Gurren Lagann. Okay, so that's my opinion. And on top of that, Snow Miku explodes frozen runes, and if you notice, this card here doesn't have any ignore burning, ignore sticky and stuff like that, of frozen runes, right? So all this is really based on your team members. Okay, so of course I'm not gonna rule out Pompey is a bad member. Okay, Pompey you can definitely bring for that fixed board, right? So as I mentioned, this team cannot ignore sticky, cannot ignore burning, so you might want to have a full fixed board convert occasionally, right? Pompey will do the job very well, and Pompey ignores puzzle shield, in which most Makina can't, right? Unless you bring the Miku craft, in which players that miss the Miku craft do not have. Okay, so things like that. So these are the few members that I feel that it is pretty good for this Simon and Kamina playstyle. Right, so if you guys have any more members you think that is suitable, you can leave it down in the comments below, share it with all the other viewers as well. Right, so in my opinion, how I feel about this collaboration, I feel that it's pretty underwhelming. Right, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's very underwhelming. I would say this is comparable to how I've described the Oden trio, which is like Changbi, Veronica, as well as Enlil. Right, so this collab feels like a Oden trio of collabs. So what I mean by that is that these collab cards are good, but not so good as compared to the existing cards in the game, right? Like I can see the cards in this collab buffing the playstyle of Fullmetal Alchemist as compared to this Gurren Lagann collab on its own. Okay, so something like that, right? So I'm not gonna touch on Yoko, which is the other jackpot card, because her playstyle revolves around Daiguren characters, in which the infos are not released yet, so it will be unfair for me to judge Yoko now. Alright, so wait for all the cards info is being released, then I'll do a card review for Yoko. Right, so if not, this is the full card review for Simon as well as Kamina as the new collaboration card review. Right, so it's a long video where hopefully you guys stay through it and have some sort of insight for this gameplay. Alright, so feel free to agree and disagree, and that's all for the card review for this video. Right, and as usual, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.